So, guys, check it out. Question: if you were stranded on a desert island and you could only have one MCG book with you, what would be the favorite book? What would be the book of choice? Let's reveal it on the count of three. Ready?
Yep,
One,
I'm ready.
two, three.
Oh,
Hey, wait a minute. We can't all have the same book. Come on, let's do this over again. All right. I'll count us down. Ready? One, two, three.
oh man, it happened again. All right, guys, I already see where this is heading. So let's have a discussion about our favorite non-core Monte Cook Games books. Hey yo, it's your boy Inton Albatross here again with the Cypher Unlimited crew. We have our usual suspects of AD or Alpha Dean or just simply Dean. And we have our good friend Spigs18 or Anthony. And Dean, why are we here today?
Well, today we're going to talk about our favorite books from MCG that just don't happen to be core rule books. We're going to each talk about a little bit of this, a little bit of that, what makes the book, resonate for us, and just have some fun with it. Um,
Yeah, this is a great topic. We're going to break it down into two categories. We're going to have our favorite stranded in a desert island non-core book, and just for shits and giggles, we added a honorable mention book, another book that we really enjoy and we thought you guys might be interested in checking out. So, should we start it off with honorable mentions?
Sounds good to me.
Al, you want to lead us off?
All right, yeah. So I'll lead us off. My honorable mention book for my desert island stay, which is essentially my honorable mention favorite Monte Cook non-core game book, and that would be Unmasked by Dennis Detweiler. It's a fantastic setting. I believe it's the 80s, if someone wants to
Yeah,
correct me.
80s.
It's 80s.
Yeah.
It's about teens who get the power to transform into superheroes via these masks they create. Adds a lot of cool mechanics to the game where you're a teen and you transform into a superhero. It's the 80s, so there's a lot of cool aesthetic stuff going on with the music of the time and the clothing of the time and all that sort of stuff. And the book is gorgeous. It's just the art is amazing, the layout is very nice, has that 80s feel with all these triangles and stuff, like the neon color. Yeah, the layout is just it's a gorgeous book.
First of all, the layout that stands out to me first and foremost. It looks like a 1980s, Cyndi Lauper video with all the bright colors and whoever did that layout, they did an awesome job. It was probably Bear, but yeah, and the setting is phenomenal. It has that whole teen drama. That whole. Similar to the 80s teen movie 16 Candles. It has that feel with superheroes, so it's really cool.
Yeah, what I like to say about it, I think as a whole, um, Dennis Detweiler and Monte Cook Games captured the 80s in a bottle. It reminded me of, me being a teen in the 80s, especially. But the idea of the mask and the I guess you could say the psychological horror aspects of it. It's kind of interesting because we've got games out there like Tales from the Loop and After the Flood and
Kids
Kids
on
on
bikes.
Bikes and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And those games are essentially that, where Unmasked kind of took all of those elements, and you get that whole Stranger Thing feel, you get that weird feeling, but it's still uniquely works for superheroes, and it's a unique setting. So I think that is like a pretty solid approach. Um, and like I was talking about, um, I mean, the only thing is, I mean, we'll talk about slight detractors or whatever they might be. For me, probably the hugest thing about it was a superhero book, and we only got a couple of extra foci that was supposed to represent superheroes. I think that was probably the biggest
I,
disappointment.
I was waiting for you to say it because me, Dean, everybody knows me and Dean kind of got some strong feelings about Unmasked. I love the setting. I I just think it didn't give us enough, if that makes any sense. And it was the last of the Worlds of Cypher book, so I was kind of expecting to be blown away. But the first two, which I'm sure are going to appear on our list, were so exceptional that it sort of hurt Unmasked a little bit, because the first two Worlds of Cypher books were phenomenal. And this one was great. It just wasn't phenomenal, in my opinion.
Well, I can say this, because it lacked what I needed. It inspired, forced, whatever you want to say, me to create my heroic mixtape, where I created 10 more foci for superhero. You know, it could be used for anything, but it was superhero centric. And I felt they were inspired, and it captured those tropes that we were looking for superheroes. I mean, a lot of people have used it. People who have given me feedback on it, and you know, so I'm happy in that respect. But like Anthony said, you know, it was just and that was just a big piece, because you know, I don't know anybody. I don't know about you out there in the Cyberverse, but I know for me and most of the people I know, the first thing you do when you get a superhero role playing game is you go to the power section. The power section is like you probably even think that's more important than character creation. You know, it's like powers we got to see. You know,
That's definitely the bread and butter of the any superhero genre book is those powers. And I do agree with you all that there should have been a little bit more. But don't get me wrong, what's in there is great. It actually has one of my favorite focus in like all of every book, which is travels back from the past or travels back from the future, where you like get to interact with yourself from the future. Like he comes back and he helps you out in some way, but it's like an alternate version of you or a future version of you. And I really enjoy that. I've not gotten to play it enough, probably like once ever, but that along with the whole changing mechanic, or like you're a kid, a teen, and then you get to become the superhero. I feel like that adds a lot to the game, because your teen might be one way, like you might have to role play a meek teen or like a shy teen or something, and then your superhero form is like the opposite, like what is it, the Mask, like the Mask movie, like you put on this mask, you become this wild, exaggerated, like you might not even have the same personality at all as your teen self. Well, so that gives you more avenues to explore role playing wise.
I mean, that's an excellent.
I think that's a great point you're making now, for the simple fact. What I liked in the book was kind of how it really stated that your mask form might actually be someone else. You know, you might be like literally shifting places with a extra dimensional or ultra dimensional, an ultra terrestrial being, which was so cool. So there were so many little seeds. That was the beautiful thing about the Unmasked book. I think it planted seeds that you could grow into.
It kind of reminded me of the original Thor. You know how was it Dr. Blake?
Right.
When he hit his cane, he became a totally different person. It sort of has that feel to it. I just want to touch on a couple of things Al said. The setting is so rich, and we didn't even mention this. It's upstate New York, correct? Isn't that the setting base?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, which is let's keep it real too. That's not a common setting area, especially for heroes.
Yeah.
You know where that came from?
Metropolis? No, I do not know.
No, that came from the X-Men. That's the whole X-Men thing, because the X-Men is set in upstate New York.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that.
We're not saying that Dennis Detweiler plagiarized it anyway.
No.
It might just be a shout out or whatever. If that is the case.
I was just making a joke.
Oh, no. Okay. No, see, now you can't be making jokes when I'm talking serious about superheroes.
But no, like I was saying. Oh,
the last thing I was just gonna say is when you touched on the foci descriptors are really cool. The ones that are in the book are excellent. I just want a little bit more. It's like what Dean said. I own probably over 15 superhero RPGs, And the first thing one looks at when they purchase a superhero RPG is what the powers and abilities are. And with the Cypher core book and that book combined, yeah, you could make decent superheroes. But I was expecting, hey, they coming out with a superhero setting. I was expecting a lot more powers and abilities, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I was just looking for, I was looking for that superhero thing,
Mm.
And it's just interesting that, like I said, it inspired me to be creative and come up with some more foci. I created one descriptor that's in there, but then like a few other descriptors came up. So, I mean, at the end of the day, like Al said, the book is brilliant. That foci that he talks about,
I love it.
with your future self. It is. I've actually run it and have had a couple of people play it. It's been great. It also inspired us to, start, some twisting the mechanics using power shifts with the characters. That's something else that should be mentioned too, that the idea of using a power shift to create a power stunt that, isn't necessarily within the parameters of the focus itself, but but now it works because now your character can do it. As I love to use Anthony's character, the Heater, the young Republican, idolized Alex P. Keaton.
That's a great point. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, that was the first book to really like utilize that way of using power shifts.
Right.
Like concept. That's a great point.
So yeah, we turned it into power stunts and stuff like that, and just so like, for people to kind of get a clue, what we did was, instead of him shifting, making a particular attack easier, he expanded it. So it wasn't that the attack was any easier. It just was now, instead of him manifesting these flaming baseball to attack an opponent, he could literally, manifest three, and actually attack three different targets. Just little cool tweaks that were inspired by the system itself. So I really, really say thank you again, Dennis, Mr. Detweiler. That was awesome. The whole thing, the setting itself. Like I said, I've played hours of it. I've run mini campaigns. It's been some good stuff. It's a great place to be.
Yeah, it was a great choice. Al, since it was your honorable mention, we'll let you close out this book. Any final words on?
No, just final thoughts is, if you don't have it, pick it up. Even if there aren't too many powers in it, it's still a gorgeous book. It is still an awesome setting, and like I said, the focus and the scripters, they're not too many, but the ones in there are really solid. And yeah.
All right. So who's next? You want me or Dean to go?
Anthony. That'd be you.
All right. I must admit, since I thought about this, I sort of cheated. Once I found out that we couldn't use the core books, we couldn't use Numenera, The Strange, I still decided to give them some love. So I chose, for my honorable mention, the 3 instant adventure books from Numenera and The Strange. I'll break them down one at a time. The first one is Weird Discoveries by Monte Cook. The second one is Strange Revelations by Bruce Cordell. And the last one from the last Kickstarter is Explorer Keys by, I believe this is Sean Reynolds and Bruce Cordell worked on this together. And these are essentially, guys, each book contains about 10 mini adventures that are about a 3 to 4 hour session, but it requires little to no prep time, which is wonderful. It literally takes, and the adventures are so vast and different. Like, each one of these books have they deal with horror, they deal with hard sci-fi, they deal with action adventure. And it usually takes about maybe 5 to 10 minutes to do a quick read of the adventure. It comes with pre-generated characters. So you could literally sit down and play a 4-hour session with 5 to 10 minute prep time. And I think that's awesome.
And I'll jump on the bandwagon with that. Yeah, it is awesome. And the beautiful part about it is there are many adventures for, they can be demos, they can be one shots, whatever. But the other cool part about it is they can be dropped in the middle of any campaign. They can be the core of a campaign as well. Yeah, I mean, Flight of the Seraph, which I ran at Gen Con, is in that book.
Yes.
And I'll be honest with you, I read Flight of the Seraph in about 20 minutes, maybe half an hour. But it was good. It was such a good read. I read it again, and it was easy to, build this narrative off of that. And all those books do give you that. They give you an easy place to build narrative from.
You know what else I really love about each book? Not only does it come with 6 pre-generated characters, it comes with a rules cheat sheet.
Yeah.
So even if you're not an experienced GM, it gives you the basic rules in the same book, so you can sit down and run. You don't need your core book with you.
And here's another caveat to that. I am a firm believer in having a physical book. I love physical books. I love the smell of them. I love the feel of them. I love books. Trust me.
Yeah.
But having the PDF is also a very huge benefit, because then you can go in and print the pages you need to print. The PDFs tell you that these pages can be printed. So you just print the pages you want to print. Like, print that cheat sheet, laminate it, make 10 copies of it. Now you got them to pass out around the table. Those character sheets, the same thing. A lot of times I'll print the pre-generated characters. I have a ton of pre-generated characters that I laminated and I use dry erase markers, especially when I'm going to demos and stuff like that, and then last but not least at that, I also print an extra one because I know sometimes, I like to let people walk away from the table with something to think about, so here's a copy of the character for you. Do with it what you will, just little stuff like that. So I think the instant adventures and stuff like that are a brilliant concept.
Last but not least, they all come with more foci. Each book has at least 4 or 5 new foci, and it comes with a Cypher list. Yeah. So when you run in the adventure, you basically only need this book for 4 hours of enjoyment. And I'll be honest, I've only run maybe about an adventure a piece, and I haven't, except for Flight of the Seraph, I haven't run anything in Explorer Keys. But I've read every single one of these adventures. Let me just show you some other things. It has handouts.
Oh.
So you could either print these out or cut them out if you don't mind destroying your book, which that's sacrilege. Some people do. So, you have a full session with some friends. I just think this is an ingenious idea. The way it's written, the way it's set up.
Anthony, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Do not call them people. Those are not people. They're monsters.
Oh, monsters.
Do not cut up a book.
But just to interject for a second, I haven't really said much about these books, but I will be frank here. I honestly have not read them. I think I have the PDFs. As you guys have probably inferred from our previous videos, I'm more of the type to pick up stuff and make my own stuff. This sounds really good for that too, wherein you have pre-gens, which is awesome. You don't have to use those pre-gens for those stories. They can be pre-gens for anything.
Yep.
And the Cypher list, again, awesome, because I always, instead of going from like the Cypher, the table list in the book, which has like so many, I always truncate a list myself. So having an already truncated list, awesome.
I mean, you will really enjoy this out because, to be honest with you, it's literally the entire adventures are
4 pages, maybe
4.5 pages, 5 pages, and the way it's designed, it's set up so where it's like little blurbs. So you could just basically take the guts or the core of the idea and craft it into your own adventure.
Like I said,
you have everything for you.
Like I said, they're perfectly built to be dropped in. It's like drop ship. It's like that's something I like to say too. We're talking about this. That's also for people who may not know. That's kind of how Cypher play is set up. Cypher play is set up to be put into an existing campaign. It doesn't supersede anything that's going on, and that's the same thing with these instant adventures. It's a beautiful thing. I love it.
I'll show you Meech again because I really love these books.
The art is really nice too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, but that
goes without saying. Yeah.
And Strange Revelations, every single one of these adventures is top notch, and they're so diverse. You know,
Yes.
they like you have like there's a gray. It's called Crash. It's like Men in Black alien type adventure. Then there's a gothic horror adventure in this book. It's just a phenomenal book. I couldn't recommend it. Even if you don't play the Strange, which God knows why you wouldn't, because it's an awesome setting. But even if you didn't, you could still use this book because they basically 10 mini adventures for any setting, really.
Right.
So
That's how the Strange is.
yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
And since I think Anthony closes us up with that, I'm going to go with my um, honorable mention. It's a wonderful book by Bruce Cordell. None other than Expanded Worlds. Um, you're probably kind of catching a trend here with us, but Expanded Worlds was just that. It expanded upon what was already in the CSR in such a grandiose way. You know, new descriptors, new foci. It was like that gift that kept on giving. This one actually has one of my favorite foci that has been written as transcends humanity. Where you're becoming a post-human. That is like, I think, brilliant. The fact that it gave more settings and kind of gave you a way to kind of shift into not some non-traditional ideas of gaming, of course, like historical, that's not something you often get into when you're playing. I mean, it's always fantasy or it's you know um sci-fi or something, but that historical slant was pretty doggone awesome. Then the hard sci-fi was another one that kind of pushed you down the path to give you kind of an idea of you know um just expanding the game itself.
I
um,
I think
yeah.
I think Expanded Worlds is the book that I have the most use out of, aside from the CSR book. I think was it Drives Like a Maniac? One of the
Yeah, that's
Expanded
actually
Worlds.
Drives Like a Maniac is actually one of my favorite folk and I try to pick it whenever I'm a player and there's a vehicle, like a possibility of a vehicle involved, because that descriptor is, I mean, excuse me, that folk is just so fun.
Yes, we know how Mr. Weren't you the haze and you had that foci?
Wait, no,
He's
no, no,
actually
no. The
he's
haze.
actually had that foci in a couple of
I don't
games.
think the haze in that game had that folk. It was, I think, Kenny's character who drives like a maniac in that game.
Oh, right.
But there were a couple of games where I had that folk
You did
Don't
have
get me
it. You did
wrong,
have it.
but it wasn't in that game.
I think Expanded Worlds is the perfect companion to the Cypher System Core rulebook. It's almost like 1A and 1B. They meant to go together. Like basically when I go to craft a wacky setting, I have both those books with me. It's like
Oh,
and it's like what Dean said. It not only did it give you additional like genres and settings to play around in, but for me personally, it opened my eyes on how to create my own genres and settings using the Cypher System book. Because
right.
the core book relied on like the key, you know, everyone knows type of settings, but Expanded Worlds kind of did exactly that. It expanded my world view of settings, so it gave me historical and it showed me how to create those. So when I did Godfather with mice, or I did the Warriors 70s gangs, I was more comfortable because of Expanded Worlds, because it showed
Exactly.
me how to play with the foci, play with the descriptors, play with the power shifts, to find the feel and like this that setting specific aspects that I want in my genre of my game.
Yeah, I can say that as well. What it kind of taught me was it taught me how to really craft a good descriptor. The because the new descriptors kind of showed a variance where you're used to more looking at, like when you looked in the core book, descriptors gave a +4 to this or +4 to that. Some gave a +2, but then in expanded worlds, like the young descriptor gave a +2, both might and speed, and then it gave a disadvantage to people taking you seriously and as an adult, and so it gave me a way to understand that I could expand a descriptor to really do a lot for character creation. And not only with that character creation, then that gives you more to do in the, I guess you would say, the personality and the playing of the character. So yeah, expanded worlds is, I mean, this way we were talking about it, you would think it's like a favorite, but it really is one of those books that you can't live without, if you're Cypher.
And to be honest, if you didn't pick that, I probably would have picked that. Like, I like expanded worlds that much.
Same.
And let's be honest too, the cover's hella awesome too. I love the work on the cover.
Where's my expanded world is across the room.
The cover on expanded worlds is crazy.
And I mean, honestly though, I don't think anybody's picked anything yet. I mean, we love them all.
It's true. It is definitely true.
So, you have any final words before we hit on our actual picks?
Yeah, the final thing I'm going to say about expanded worlds, like I said a few seconds ago, if you don't have it, you should really get it. I think even if you don't necessarily want to run games yourself, this will give you just an idea on, again, the expansive nature of developing characters. It'll expand your horizons in that department. So,
good final thoughts.
Yeah, great.
So I guess it's on to me with my main pick.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
All right, so let's drum roll. So my main pick for favorite non-core Monte Cook Games book, for my desert island stay, would be Predation by Shauna Germain. Easily,
what a surprise!
Easily my favorite of the setting books or the non-core books. So much so that I even got it signed. Not last Gen Con, but Gen Con before that, 2018. But yeah, it's an awesome book. Just like every other book, the layout is awesome, the art awesome. All of this is like standard across the board with Monte Cook Games books. That's something just to expect from their books. The art, the layouts, all that stuff is awesome. As far as why I chose it as my favorite, you guys already know this, but I'll tell you viewers out there, I really enjoy, one, the setting. It's awesome. You get a mix of both futuristic and prehistoric all at the same time. And it doesn't feel forced or anything. It works naturally in the setting where humans come back and they get stuck. And it all makes sense. And it's awesome. It allows you to mess with a lot of genres all at once if you really wanted to. But yeah, that itself, awesome. And then the thing that really made me love it was the companion mechanic, where each player plays another player's companion, dinosaur companion or early mammal or whatever have you. And that just creates so much room for fun role playing. We had so many fun. Not even happen from the main characters role play. It's all the dinosaurs and the companions all doing their wacky things through their personalities, not listening to their handler when they fail the roll or whatever. And I enjoy that so much. I don't know why. I don't know why I enjoy having those companion pets or whatever have you, but that really once I saw that in the book, I was like, yo, this is hands down one of my favorites. And that's not even hitting on the cool descriptors and foci they added. It's just about the same as Unmasked. It's about 4 or 5 each, 4 or 5 descriptors, 4 foci. But the thing that put Predation over the top over Unmasked for me was that companion mechanic, quite honestly. Just being able to, like I mentioned with the Unmasked, you get to basically roleplay as 2 characters. So it gives you more room to work with your creative juices. Not only are you role-playing as your character, your whatever PC, you're also role-playing as your friend's little dinosaur buddy. And it just gets to be so fun, and that's why it easily tops my favorite of the non-core books.
Predation. I think it's the best of the 3 Worlds of Cypher books, hands down in my opinion. You know, even though I love the other two, Predation tops it. It's similar to what Al said. The setting is rich. It's so different. It's unlike any other setting that I've come across. There's so much room to play. There's so much, with the technology, with the prehistoric era fusion mix. There's so many angles you could take as a GM. There's so many directions you could go. The companion mechanic changes the way Cypher is played. It changes the dynamic at the table in a good way. Um, you mentioned that there's only 4 or 5 foci, but it's a lot different than Unmasked because
It's not a superhero setting.
yeah, and you could use pretty much any foci from the Strange, from
From
Numenera.
anywhere.
They all fit, so you don't necessarily need that. Where it excelled at is the setting.
Yes.
The setting is so rich and diverse. There's so much, like you hit that one on the head. That Predation is just an awesome book.
And I will be frank here. I don't.
Stop being Frank, you Al.
I don't know all the lore details, as you've probably gathered from our previous videos. That's not my style. I don't nitpick like fine details. So if you're that kind of person, there is so much for you to learn in this book. Like there's just like organizations, the cities, like the maps of the continents, all that stuff. It's just so in detail. And again, I'm not the kind of guy who reads that stuff and uses much of it, but it is there, and there is a lot of it, and it's very good.
All I'm going to say is this: dinosaurs with lasers. I mean,
Sign me up.
dinosaurs with 20 mm chain guns mounted on their backs. Yeah, raptors and pteranodons and pterodactyls, took me back to my Hercules days.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many things about predation that just make you smile. The other concept, these guys both brought it up, and I think they were, kind of get to the same thing, but just didn't say it out loud, was the companion mechanic. What it does to the game is it truly keeps the spotlight moving, because the dinosaurs sometimes get the spotlight. I still personally, my favorite character ever in Predation is my genetically engineered Tyrannosaurus Rex. He'll never grow taller than 10 feet tall, but he has all the same strength and power of a full-size Tyrannosaurus Rex. And his name is Biggie Smalls. Come on. When you get to, it just works. He's got, cybernetic legs that allow him to jump. It's just cool stuff that could be done inside this game. And then, you think about those shows that were canceled that never got their just dues that were on TV, like Terra Nova. The other one, I forgot the name of the British show where they were going through the rifts, going back in time. It'll come to me somewhere along there. But the point I'm making is that Predation basically had all of those ideas and then so much more. So Predation. I'll steal Anthony's, open.
Yeah, it's an awesome book. Like I absolutely love Predation. I don't get to run it enough. I wish I should run it enough. Matter of fact, I'll probably write something up. I want to. I like to do Halloween games. Maybe my next Halloween game is a Predation game.
Halloween and Predation.
Halloween's coming.
We got some skeleton dinosaurs maybe roaming around.
Oh.
But Predation, like, just final thoughts on it. It's an awesome book. Definitely pick it up if you don't have it. Because again, even just for the companion mechanics alone, like, it's awesome. And it'll bring, if you do run it, it does again bring a lot of diversity to the table, like Dean and Anthony said, where, Dean said it specifically, the spotlight rotates a lot, and it makes it easier for you to, like, include players who may not be in the scene with their main character, but maybe the dinosaur they're playing is there. So there's more chances for people to be in the spotlight, even if it's not their PC per se.
Another thing too
Real
that
quick,
we
real
should
quick.
mention. I love the way they did ciphers in Predation. The way
Yes, yes, absolutely. And the other thing I want to add, because Al, you just made me think about it, talking about that spotlight shifting. Another cool thing about it is depending on how people handle their companions. They're dinosaurs. They don't talk. So if you have a person at your table, not necessarily a talker or used to that, it gives them an easy way to kind of slide in, still be a part of what's going on, but not so much worrying about, oh, how do I figure out what dialogue or it's so cool.
Yeah.
We had so much fun playing each other's companions and not talking and just you
and
know
even if you don't want a dino, you got to take an early mammal.
Yep.
yeah, early mammals. Yeah, I mean it's so great. It was awesome. So
But yeah.
sorry to step on your final thoughts,
Nah,
Al.
but definitely big thumbs up for Predation.
Anthony.
All right, so now I'm gonna. I think this book, besides the core books, is probably the nearest and dearest to my heart because it's helped me out the most. It's probably the book that I've relied on the most. That's why I had to pick it as my main book. This is also the book I recommend the most, but it's The Strange Worlds, Numberless and Strange. The reason why I love this book so much is it's basically the writer's block protection book.
Wait a second. Who
And
wrote that book?
Bruce Cordell and Monte Cook, because it's chock full of recursions. If you don't know what a recursion is, a recursion is basically it's like limited pocket dimensions that are based on human fiction, right? So this book is basically 70 different recursions. So it's basically giving you 70 different settings. And the reason why I'd say it's the writer's block protection is because you ever get stumped on what do you want to run, like, or even if you're not running The Strange, just pick this book up and start reading. Because one of these recursions is going to spark an idea, and it's
Spark.
so, yeah. It has, you have Sherlock Holmes, you have Atlantis, a Wizard of Oz type setting, a hard sci-fi setting. There's just so many different World War Z, which was like the zombie setting, which I used, gave me the idea to run a zombie game, based it off of this. This is the book I go to the most. This is the book I read for pleasure. Out of all the Monte Cook Games books, this is the one that stays by the bathroom. Because you could basically enjoy all the different settings. I know it's meant for the strange, but it's really a universal book. I've used the Cypher core in this book to design original ideas without using it at the base of the strange. But with the strange, it's the perfect complementary book to go with the strange core book. But you don't even need the strange core book to utilize Worlds Numberless and Strange.
Worlds of Numberless, I'll say it like this. Worlds of Numberless actually was what made me truly appreciate Strange. So it is a great book in a sense because, I read The Strange, I read the lore, I read Myth of the Maker, I got all of that and it was good stuff. But Worlds Numberless, and Strange, what it did was it kind of pushed home the conceptualization that what was the idea of the strange, what was in our collective imaginations exists somewhere out there as a reality. It's a reality somewhere out there. So when you're looking at it and they've got the rebel, the rebel recursion where it's basically Star Wars,
Yeah.
But it's the rebels. You can see how they approached it. No copyright infringement, but basically allowing you to latch on to these fantasy concepts and build them into whatever you needed them to be. And if you're running
setting in there is awesome as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like I said, the whole idea that you could use that, to build anything you wanted. But if you're running a strange, just think about that. If you just went through that book, like Anthony said, there's 70 recursions. you could literally, I mean, that's 70 sessions and never having to touch the same recursion.
And not only that, they've totally fleshed out the two main recursions from the Strange Core book, Audit and Rook. They added new locations, new artifacts, NPCs, plot hooks, which are the two main recursions. Like
Right.
they, and each one of those recursions, Rook and Audit, have like 20 pages of additional setting info. So, it's like the best of all worlds here.
It definitely is. Like I said with the other books you like, the Instant Adventures,
Mm.
I haven't touched it much. I'm just gonna be honest. But what I did read in there, I enjoyed thoroughly. Like you guys said, it really sparks that like imagination. Like, oh wait, there's a like World War. Oh, what if World War II had zombies or like whatever. Like, or like it really makes you really gets the juices going. Like, and again, if you're a kind of person like me who doesn't really use other people's like pre-created content, it is good because people like us do pick and like we Frankenstein our stuff,
Yeah.
and this is an awesome tool for that because it just gives you so many different things to look at and so many different ideas that will pop into your head just from reading not even the whole book, like maybe even like 10 of these recursions, and you just pick 10 randomly and
Yeah,
it'll
I mean,
be like okay.
you could even do the exercise like exactly what you said. Just take two recursions and come up with a setting based on those two recursions.
Boom.
Right.
And it's totally feasible, totally workable. Not only that, they give you the creatures for each recursion. There's at least one baddie. There's a ton of new foci. Like I said, there's a ton of new artifacts in there. This is just like, honestly, this is like the perfect book. I love this book.
Literally, we want to quote Anthony on that. This is the perfect book, quote unquote, and send it to what is it, Bruce and Monty.
So, any final thoughts, Anthony?
Oh no, this is a must-have. Must-have. I don't care what game you play in Cypher System, but if you are a CSR guy like I am, that like to create your own things, yeah, I'm talking about myself though. You talk for yourself.
Man, I'm getting tired of you and your
So if you're a CSR guy like we are, then this is an absolute must-have. If you could only have three books, Expanded Worlds, Worlds Numberless, and the CSR book, and you could pretty much create whatever you want.
Yep,
Absolutely.
most definitely.
And
That'll bring us to
I'm going to talk about my top pick for this one. And this one has a lot of aspects. The reason why it ended up becoming my chosen book. And I have to say that, Bruce Cordell, you've got a lot of love today because look, another book by Bruce Cordell, Gods of the Fall. Bruce, that's a testament to your work at MCG. You've done a lot of awesome things and put a lot of awesome stuff out there. This book, I chose it as my favorite
Hold the cover up.
non core book.
Yeah.
put a little closer so we can see some
First of all,
details.
yeah, we talk about artwork. The artwork in this is unbelievable. But this to me, this book, Gods of the Fall, was like fantasy superheroes. Its concept is awesome. You are a godling. You are a person who just finds you have a divine spark, and you start to rise up. You want to build a following. You want to build, rebuild. You're rebuilding the pantheon of the gods because all the gods have fallen. They are no more. But you have this monstrosity, this darkness. You have the dragons waiting in the wings to destroy you. You have the reconciliators who come and block your power, before you become full on. It was rich. The lore is what drew me into this particular setting. Um, then the way they use power shifts, even though they're divine shifts in this game. The idea of you know the trials of Hercules. You could literally do the trials of Hercules. Through this book. The and it was just all the filaments of seeding the world. They seeded the world or the book with so many tools. They gave you tons of information for the setting, but at the end of the day, you could play in one Gods of the Fall game and all that baseline stuff is there, and go play in another Gods of the Fall game and it will be entirely different, but it's still the same thing. It's still familiar, you know, inspired. I've ran a couple of Gods of the Fall games that I set in modern times with gods being reborn in modern times. After watching the show on Stars, American Gods, and stuff like that. So all these little things about how Gods of the Fall was put together are what makes it a star. Like I said, love Predation, love Unmasked, but Gods of the Fall to me was a total package. It was completely solid in its construction. So you could literally run it as is in the book with everything that they've given you and never had to add anything else. Or you could expand that world in unimaginable ways. So that's my deal.
Just to touch on what you just mentioned, how one Gods of the Fall game will be nothing like another Gods of the Fall game, but it still has the same essence. I think I've actually only played in one Gods of the Fall game. Well, multiple of this. Like, I think it was your game, Anthony. But your game wasn't even like how Dean described Gods of the Fall, where it's like superhero meets fantasy. Yours was like a fantasy horror game. Yeah. And again, it was still had all the same baseline stuff. You were gods or fledgling gods, and it was still trying to help the downtrodden people, whatever.
Bunny Man.
Or trying to defeat the Bunny Man in this case, while whatever have you. But it had more of a horror feel than a superhero feel. And again, that just goes to what Dean says, that you can basically play this setting many different ways, and it works.
Right. And
I have three reasons why Gods of the Fall is special to my heart. One, the Nightlands freaking rock. I love that whole area, that whole concept, the whole the whole theory behind the bad guys essentially won, and it's a city just of corrupt, evil people, and it's about surviving all this negativity around you, and at the same time hunting people with the spark of people that have the gods reemergence coming in, reappearing in them. I love that whole Nightland thing. Two is it scratched that fantasy itch for me using MCG. We all started out playing the game that shall not be named. We all started out playing, the fantasy genre is near and dear to everyone's heart. That's obvious. And it allowed to scratch that itch. And last but not least is we met Dean. The first game we ever played with Dean was the Gods of the Fall game.
Wait, was it?
Yeah, it was. It was the Bunny Man. That was
the first game?
Yeah.
That was the first game I played with you guys.
Children shouldn't play with that thing.
Yeah, and I remember the game. I remember playing with Dean, but damn, that was the first game?
That was our first game. I literally, and I can tell you, I remember it vividly because I had literally been on the server for 1 week.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Halloween. I was good and ready to go to work. I had to work nights. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know what? I really want to play. And I know it's going to be dead at work. And I can play, but I'm going to have to be on the phone first. And I literally was playing from my phone while I was driving to work.
Yeah, I remember.
Instead of listening to an audiobook, I was literally role playing, driving down the street.
And then when it came to dice and stuff, like we rolled dice for you, or forget how we handled that.
By that time, he got to work and he rolled his own dice.
Oh yeah, it was just the intro where there was no dice rolling.
We were doing our intro and all that.
Yeah, the whole intro to that game was weird. It was remember your guys found it was like a carriage with little darts in it. I actually really loved that adventure. I think that
I remember that adventure vividly, and it's like, Halloween. Maybe the whole concept of the Bunny Man, the whole night was just a lot of fun.
Yeah, and we built a bond, and next thing you know, we got this dummy with us making videos about it.
Exactly. 2 years.
So Gods of the Fall is always going to have a special place in the heart because I met my older brother playing that game. So
absolutely, and that's what. And like I said, I guess I would just close it up by saying, I think that's just the biggest aspect overall. Not just Gods of the Fall, not just expanded worlds, not just predation, but Cypher system in general. I believe that it does allow you to build, not only great stories and tell great stories, but you do build good bonds. Because you know what? We got a server with over 2,300 people on it. And, you know, that happened over the course of a couple of years, which,
It hasn't
or
even been 2 years. Wait, has it been 2 years?
just
No,
about. No?
October.
Yeah, it's not
October.
yet. Not yet.
Yeah.
Like I
Multiple
said, just
years.
about 2 years. We built this massive thing, but you know what? It's awesome because you know what? You hop on there and everybody is family. Everybody, every now and then, of course, we in our position as admins and whatnot got to do our job. But for the most part, it's an easy job. It's not like we're putting out fires. We're not putting out dumpster fires every day.
That
You
is
know,
definitely true.
um,
But
so I love you guys out there in the land of cyber. I love my Cypher Unlimited brothers. You know, let's keep doing this, guys. And people, give us more input, give us more feedback. Tell us what you want from us. We're here for you.
well, on top of that, since we're closing this out, if you are watching, be sure to drop a comment down below telling us why you might agree or disagree with our picks. What's your favorite pick for a desert island stay? That's a non-core Monte Cook Games book, or you could even name any other role-playing game book that you would prefer over these books. It's always good to have that discussion.
And even though we mentioned these are our personal picks, there are plenty of other Monte Cook Games books that absolutely could have made this list. And I would just encourage you to go to the Monte Cook Games website or Drive Through RPG and take a look at their catalog, see if something sparks your interest, or is there something that you might be interested in? Because I know we're fanboys, but honestly, they make great products. And anything that sparks your imagination, gets you into gaming, we're all for it.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Even if you don't end up playing Cypher System, just having these tools and these I guess supplements would be a good word at your disposal to get that imagination flowing. Again, even if you're not playing Cypher System, it's a great thing. It's a great thing to have at your disposal.
But if you'd like to play Cypher System, stop by our Cypher Unlimited Discord.
Yes.
Join. You know what? And hit me up. I'll run a game for you. I'll do it for you personally.
Most definitely. And any final thoughts before I close this out, guys?
This was a great discussion, guys. I just want to say, we really enjoy doing these videos, and if any way you could possibly support us, not financially or anything like that, but just share our videos around. We want to get more videos out. Next week we have a interview with Bear, the art director from Monte Cook Games, and I think it's going to be a great interview. I'm super excited for that. And in order for us to get more interviews, we just got to get our views up, so when we approach these people in the industry, they'll at least listen to us and want us to interview them. So, if you could help us out in any way, we really appreciate it. Like, share, subscribe to our videos. We truly, truly would appreciate it. And thank you for all your support for those that are doing that now.
Yeah, so basically what Anthony said, you close it out for me. Be sure to like the video, share it out, subscribe to our channel, hit that little bell notification button so you can get notifications as to when we post videos. And stay being awesome. You guys are all awesome. Anybody watching this, you are awesome. And thank you so much. And from us at the CU, we'll see you later.